1579 Su Ping, and 1579 Su Ping. And there was an old house on the edge of Tianhe City. The house was not large, and was a little dilapidated. Those who lived around them knew that the old house was occupied by a couple and their daughter. The couple was getting on in age, and suffered from injuries that had not been fully healed for many years. The couple only had a daughter named Su Pingyan, which sounded like a man's name. But judging from the name, it was clear that the couple wanted nothing more than to have their daughter be safe and sound. At this moment, however, a battle was taking place outside the old house. A group of people stood haughtily above the void, and looked indifferently toward a woman who had been injured. The woman looked to be about 20-something, and was of the realm of noble plain. Although she dressed plainly, her beauty still could not be hidden. It was hard to imagine that the two older people in this old house had such a beautiful daughter. But at this time, Su Pingyan didn't seem to feel at ease. Her lips were stained red with blood, and her beautiful face was pale. However, she still held firmly in her hand a rusty iron sword that was without luster. It did not appear to have any power. It was difficult to imagine that such a sword could be used in combat. Su Pingyan, are you going to return the thing that you borrowed from us? The speaker was a burly noble figure, and he sounded cold. He was middle-aged and had cultivated for many years, but he was still of noble plain. Maybe this realm was considered adequate with mere mortals, but in Tianhe City, the major city of Tianhe realm, it could only be regarded as being on the fringe, with no possibility to go higher at all. He had been cultivating for many years, but was still in noble plain, unable to break through the threshold of sage plane. He lacked in the areas of mental state and talent. But now, he had forgotten about all that, and just wanted to be able to exist in a corner of Tianhe realm. His eyes fixed upon Su Pingyan, who was young, beautiful and talented. He knew all the details about her, better than most. If it was many years ago, someone like Su Pingyan was someone he wasn't even qualified to look up to. But now, she was at his mercy. You set me up? Su Pingyan said coldly. What do you mean set up? If you borrowed something, don't you think you have to return it? The middle-aged man said coldly. Su Pingyan's eyes were cold, but there was perseverance in them. If you really can't, then you will pay back with your person. How about that? The middle-aged man said again, stepping forward, oppressing Su Pingyan. Get out of here. Su Pingyan's eyes were frosty. When the man heard her words, he narrowed his eyes slightly, then waved his hand. Immediately, a group of men stepped forward and approaching Su Pingyan. The breath from their bodies shrouded her. Pingyan, give the sword to them. At this time, an ancient voice was heard, and Su Pingyan turned her head. Two elderly people were walking over. The one who spoke was her father Su Haoran, whose hair was white. His face was full of wrinkles, and even his eyes were slightly cloudy and not so bright. However, looking at the outline of the old man's face, one could still vaguely see the handsomeness of his youth. And even when he was this ancient, he still had an extraordinary temperament. Father. Su Pingyan turned her head to look at her father. Give it to them, Su Haoran said, and Su Pingyan seemed a little reluctant. That broken sword in her hand? The middle-aged man glanced at the rusty iron sword in Su Pingyan's hand, and a trace of doubt flashed through his eyes. Old man, who are you kidding? Another said coldly. That is the sword left by my father. Do you want it or don't you? The old man said. Upon hearing his words, the pupils of the middle-aged man contracted slightly, and he nodded, yes. Moreover, his eyes were fixed at the sword with a strong sense of greed. Compared to this sword, beauty meant nothing. Pingyan, give it to him, the old man said. Su Pingyan's arm was trembling slightly, but after seeing her father's eyes, she finally threw the sword out, which the man immediately caught. He glanced at the sword, though still with some confusion. He turned around decisively and said, let's go. The group of people flickered away quickly, even intentionally avoiding others' attention. However, he was reluctant to put away the sword, still holding it in his hand. He seemed to want to unlock the mystery within the sword. Who is it? When they entered into an alley, suddenly, a sense of danger descended. As he raised his head to ask, when his voice faded, a sword chi directly pierced through his throat, leaving a bloody mark. It was not just him, but all the others also. The surrounding sword will slash their throats, just like a silk sword. All those in the group were wide-eyed, filled with fear and despair, as if they had felt yet again the sorrow of being so insignificant that they didn't even know how they had died. A figure clad in simple clothes and wearing a hat came to the place where the sword had fallen and picked it up, holding it firmly in both hands. The person looked solemn with reddened eyes. The hand holding the sword trembled slightly. In another direction, Su Ping'an and her parents returned to the old house. Su Ping'an looked at her parents and said in a low voice, "I was useless." Su Haoran turned around and held out his aged, quivering hands, stroking Su Ping'an's cheeks. "It's me who should apologize. I had wanted to maintain a bloodline for your grandfather, so that before your mother's injury had a chance to completely deteriorate, she had you. This was a mistake, and it was me who brought you into this world to suffer." There was a strong sense of guilt in the eyes of the old man, and there was even a trace of tears at the corners of his eyes. "Father and mother, why haven't we left for so many years? Will they always keep tabs on us forever?" Su Ping'an looked at her parents and said, "Ping'an, many things seem to be accidental, but were in fact inevitable. Some things we cannot escape. We only seek to survive in peace. But the troubles are endless, so there is no escape." Su Ping'an bowed her head in disappointment. Indeed, all these years, their family had never been able to get out of trouble. "Why not ask him for a favor?" Su Ping'an whispered. "It's useless. We are all in a bind. If you go to see the old man, it will only get worse." The old man shook his head. His heart was hurting as he watched his daughter helplessly. Su Ping'an's beauty and talent were both outstanding. At this age, she should have been enjoying the most wonderful years of her life. But instead, all they could only think about day and night was about how to survive. He had failed his daughter. Su Ping'an's head was also hanging. There was none of the innocence in her beautiful eyes like those of her peers. There was only sadness and strength. The sadness that she could not change anything and could not protect her father and mother. "Father, it doesn't matter. No matter what we face, we are together as a family." Su Ping'an looked up and smiled, especially radiant. Su Haoran nodded with emphasis. He held his daughter and looked up at the sky with a smile in his eyes. Although it was such a bleak life, if you asked him whether or not he regretted the past, he would say no, because that was his father's choice. "Who is it?" At this moment, coldness flashed through Su Ping'an's beautiful eyes. As she turned around, a figure had already stepped into the yard. Her face was slightly pale. She wasn't even aware of the intruder until he had already come in. She turned around and fully released the breath of the realm of noble plane. There was a hint of desperation in her eyes. Would they still refuse to let them go? The man was wearing simple ordinary clothes and wearing a hat. He appeared extremely common. The rusty iron sword that was held in his hand was the sword that was relinquished by Su Ping'an before. "Who are you?" Su Ping'an asked. As the visitor removed his hat, he looked at Su Ping'an with a kind gentleness in his eyes, which surprised Su Ping'an. This man did not seem to harbor malicious intent. Old man Su Haoran looked at the visitor, and his body shivered slightly. He wiped his eyes as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The visitor was Qi Xiangang. He looked away from Su Ping'an, took a step forward, and came directly in front of the old man. He looked at that extremely weathered face in front of him, full of the wrinkles of the years, and there was the air of death already upon his body. Qi Xianggang's eyes were red. His hands stretched out to hold on to the old man's shoulders. He shivered and said in a low cry, "Haoran." The old man also shivered slightly, and tears flowed out of his cloudy eyes. The old woman next to him also wept with her head lowered. Su Ping'an watched all this with a blank face. "Who was he?" "Uncle Master." The old man called out with a trembling voice. "Uncle Master." The old woman next to him also looked on with teary eyes and said. Tears flowed from Qi Xianggang's eyes. He had thought that he would never cry again. Once upon a time, these two were so on the top of their game. They were an envious couple, but now they were so advanced in age. After all, their cultivation had been destroyed, so how else could they withstand the erosion of time? "I thought you were all gone, that I had failed you all." Qi Xiangang stepped forward and gently hugged the old man, only to feel the pain in his core. He failed too many people. Too many people had perished because of things in the past that concerned him. Although he did not wish it, he was the cause. Since Uncle Master is alive, why come back? The old man asked. Qi Xiangang looked at him, and then looked at Su Pingyan behind him. Some unfinished business that I must take care of. He had thought he would stay in Dali all his life, but because of Yi Futian, his life path changed, and he went to the supreme realm. Now he should let go of everything. Some things had to be done. Pingyan, come over and meet your granduncle Master, the old man said to Su Pingyan, who then walked in front of Qi Xiangang. Qi Xiangang looked at her, his eyes full of kind love, but also great sadness. He thought of Feishua, whose life previously was extremely bleak. However, he didn't think that Su Pingyan was also living a miserable and bleak life here. She was still so young, yet she had shouldered unbearable weight. Granduncle Master, Su Pingyan called. Qi Xiangang noted with emphasis, and took Su Pingyan's hand to put the iron sword back in her palm. He whispered, "This is your grandfather's sword. Your grandfather often said that only when all the artifices have been washed away, could one be qualified to use the sword. Your grandfather was full of righteousness, and was a gentleman of the sword. He was the #1 swordsman in all of Tianhe realm." After he put the sword in Su Pingyan's palm, Qi Xiangang turned to face the sky and knelt on the ground. His head touched the ground 3 times. It was as if there was a peerless swordsman that had appeared above the sky. "Elder Senior Brother Master, I came back to see you." Qi Shuangong's voice was full of sadness, and Su Pingyan couldn't help but shed tears when she witnessed this scene. Su Pingyan was humble all her life, but her grandfather was a gentleman in the sword, the indisputable and widely recognized gentleman sword emperor in Tianhe realm. Its #1 swordsman. Still, she had never seen her grandfather before. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1580 Depart in peace. 1580 Depart in peace. After Yi Futian left the realm palace, he returned to the mountains. Sky River Great Elder was still cultivating, so he did not ask much. However, the master must already have some idea about the matter. So if the master did not start the conversation, he wouldn't ask any questions. He also went back to cavern residence to cultivate, and he continued to study the deed of thorough comprehension. The next day, on the mountain path below, a young and very beautiful woman came toward the mountain. She looked up at the mountain in front of her with lots of emotions in her heart. The woman was Su Pingyan. Yesterday, the granduncle master left soon after he appeared, but it touched her deeply. He had asked her to go up the mountain, so she was now making the trip. As she walked up the mountain, there was an old man standing there, waiting for her. The old man's hair was scattered and looked rugged. It was as if he had been through a lot in life. However, Su Pingyan knew that the man who stood in front of her was the legendary old man, who had been imprinted in her memory, but she had never met. Su Ping looked at the old man, and proceeded to kneel on the ground, and bowed down to pay her respect. Disciple Su Pingyan greets the Grandmaster. "Get up." Somehow the old man appeared in front of her, holding her arm with both hands, helping her up. Su Pingyan looked at the kind gentleness in the old man's eyes, and her heart was filled with emotion. His name had been part of her life, and her parents had mentioned it countless times. They were all in Tianhe City, but this was the first time that she had really met this Grandmaster. The #1 cultivator in Tianhe realm, Sky River Great Elder, was also her grandfather's mentor, who had nurtured her grandfather into the first sword emperor of Tianhe realm. She would like to go back in time and experience that era it was and see for herself what a glorious past it was. Naturally, Sky River Great Elder knew of Su Pingyan. He had always known, and he had seen her, though not in person. He knew that the descendant of his eldest disciple Su Haoran had a daughter to continue theirs. Even Su Haoran's name was given by him. His father, the gentleman sword emperor, was full of righteousness, hence the name. Once upon a time, he had high hopes for the little guy. However, that once talented boy was now gray-haired and weakened by age. How sad it made him when he thought of it. "I'm sorry for not having taken care of your family," Sky River Great Elder sighed, and his voice was full of guilt. Su Ping'an bowed her head slightly. It was not her place to comment on matters between her elders. Her parents had never complained. All these were her grandfather's own choice. Her father had often said that even in the muddy world, they still need to be the bright light that would shine through it. I have been waiting for you too, Sky River Great Elder said again. I've always wanted to see the Grandmaster also, but father told me not to come and disturb your cultivation, Su Ping'an replied. Your father was afraid of involving me. Sky River Great Elder smiled and replied. He knew better than anyone that although he survived from the ordeal back then, he was still a sinner in the eyes of the God Clan. This mountain was his prison, he was an invisible prisoner. Su Ping'an also understood. She knew many things. Grandmaster, Uncle Master is back, and asked me to bring you a message, Su Ping'an said. Sky River Great Elder's arm twitched slightly. Even though he had many disciples, he knew who Ping'an meant as soon as she mentioned it. He had come back after all. And not long ago, Lord Taishian had also sent his disciple here. Uncle Master wanted you to know that he regrets that he could not come see you, Su Ping'an said. Indeed, it was regrettable. Sky River Great Elder's eyes looked into the distance. Uncle Master also said that he had accepted several apprentices on your behalf, and that you have seen one of them already, and that he asked you to please take care of that apprentice. Sky River Great Elder did not speak. It seemed that he knew everything that had happened here, and knew them very well. The news of Sky River Great Elder had appointed a successor had been spread all over Tianhe City. Now that Qi Xiangang had arrived, it was impossible that he had not heard about it. Anything else? Sky River Great Elder asked. Su Ping'an was silent for a moment, and then said, Uncle Master said that there was one more thing, but that the Grandmaster would understand his intention after seeing me. Sky River Great Elder looked at Su Ping'an. Of course he understood. This disciple of his was indeed disobedient. Everything was arranged just for him. However, even without his instructions, would he do anything differently? Lass, you will stay on the mountain to cultivate from now on, said the Sky River Great Elder. And bring your parents here too. Su Ping'an was dumbfounded for a moment as she looked up at the Grandmaster, remembering the words she said before. She was a little confused before about what Grandmaster would understand when he saw her. Now she understood. The third thing Uncle Master had asked was to let the Grandmaster take care of her. When her thoughts turned to this, Su Ping's felt a little bitter, but also was warmed by it. Her life had been miserable, and no one accepted that her parents had ever given her this feeling. But now, both Grand-Uncle Master and the Grandmaster cared about her. My father told me to go back after I relayed the message, Su Ping'an said while bowing her head. If you have the heart to continue seeing your parents like this, then listen to your father, Sky River Great Elder said. Su Ping'an clenched her fists, then nodded decisively. Clearly, she had made a decision in her heart. Grand-Uncle Master also asked me to bring a message to Uncle Master, Su Ping'an said again. Sky River Great Elder nodded. Then Yi Futian, who was cultivating, heard his voice. Soon, he came over and saw Su Ping'an. Yi Futian was a little puzzled, and didn't know who Su Ping'an was. This is Ping'an, the grandchild of my eldest disciple, who was also your older Uncle Master. He was the premier sword emperor of Tianhe realm, who perished in that battle. Ping'an's parents also had their cultivation destroyed, and Ping'an took care of them by herself, said the Sky River Great Elder. This short remark made a great impression on Yi Futian. It rendered him speechless for a moment. The Sky River Great Elder, in a few words, had told a thrilling but tragic story. And some because of that battle, and because of the things related to his teacher. Your master was there too, and visited Ping'an and her parents, and asked Ping'an to give you a message, Sky River Great Elder continued. Yi Futian's heart was troubled again. Had master arrived as well? Yi Futian looked at Su Ping'an, and saw that she was bowing slightly to him, saying, Uncle Master. In terms of seniority, Su Ping'an had to address Yi Futian as Uncle Master. Yi Futian replied. The master had visited them must be because he had great benefaction for them, or else he would not risk so much. Back then, master's senior brother, the premier sword emperor of Tianhe realm, gave his life because of the thing involving the master. The master must have felt guilty. Granduncle Master asked me to tell Uncle Master that from now on, you do not know him when you meet. Concentrate on cultivating, and don't forget the words he gave you, no matter when, where, or who you are facing, Su Ping'an said. Yi Futian's expression suddenly changed. Those words gave him a very ominous feeling. It was as if he was giving his last testimony in will. As if he noticed Yi Futian's expression, Sky River Great Elder asked Yi Futian, "What did he say?" As heaven always moves strongly, the gentleman ought always improve himself. Yi Futian looked at the Grandmaster. His face was a little gloomy. And then, Sky River Great Elder asked, "Gentleman does not stand on an unstable wall," Yi Futian replied. "The master was telling me to completely sever the relationship with him. No matter when, where, or who I am facing, I am to deny that I knew him." When he heard Yi Futian's words, Sky River Great Elder was silent. Naturally, he understood as well. Yi Futian told him that Fei Xue could now concentrate on cultivating, so he had nothing to worry about. After all, he still came back. "Grandmaster, what happened in the past, and what did my master intend to do?" Yi Futian asked. "Some things are hard to resolve, and some things must be faced sooner or later." Sky River Great Elder looked at Yi Futian, but those murky eyes seemed unusually firm at the moment. "So I respect your master's choice." Yi Futian's face was slightly pale. "You go back with Ping'an and take her parents here." "Very well." Yi Futian nodded and looked at Su Ping'an. "Let's go," he said. "Yes," Su Ping'an nodded. She left with Yi Futian to pick up Su Haoran and his wife. At the old house, Yi Futian and Su Ping'an were coming over. "Dad, Mom," Su Ping'an called out, but no one responded. Sensing that something was out of sorts, Yi Futian's body flickered, and he headed toward the inside of the house. Su Ping'an seemed to feel it too. Her face changed as her figure flickered to enter the old house. Yi Futian and Su Ping'an's footsteps suddenly stopped, and they could not move another step. Su Ping'an's body was shaking, as were her legs. Looking at the two figures leaning quietly there, endless tears continued sliding down her cheeks. After what seemed to be a long time, she walked over next to the old man and knelt down, saying, "Father and Mother, but why?" In an instant, tears fell like rain. Yi Futian also walked up quietly and looked at the elderly couple. They were his senior brother and sister-in-law, but they were so old. Suddenly he felt a pain in his heart. What had the master gone through? And what was he carrying in his heart? Su Ping'an was lying on top of the old couple, but Yi Futian saw a letter next to them. He crouched down. Su Ping'an at this moment was so fragile, like a powerless girl. "They left peacefully and left you a letter," Yi Futian whispered. "They did not suffer, but had left peacefully." Su Ping'an was sobbing. She picked up the letter, and her tears were falling on it. "Ping'an, don't be sad. If it weren't because we wanted to spend more time with you, we would have left already, but we have been reluctant to let you go. You will understand the meaning of your grand-uncle master after you are at the mountain. Although we know it was selfish of us, we hope that you will stay with the Grandmaster, so that at least you will be protected when you are in danger, not like when you were with us, and we couldn't protect you." There are many other things in the letter, but they were all words of regret. As Su Ping'an was reading it, she couldn't stop crying. She had never complained about her destiny. Never. "Ping'an, don't forget the words of your parents. Even if you are in the muddy world, still shine your light through it. We can't see your future, and our only wish is for you to be safe always." The letter was soaked with tears that had blurred the handwriting. Yi Futian felt bitterness in his heart. Master went far away for Fei Xue's sake. However, after Fei Xue's matter was resolved, the master followed him. Now he knew that master was bearing such a heavy weight. That constant concern aside, he would accompany him to the upper realm. Same with Ping'an's parents. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1581 Visitors from God Clan. 1581 visitors from God Clan. Yi Futian knew very well that the old couple, because their cultivation had been destroyed, had relied on their daughter to take care of them all these years. Furthermore, Ping'an needed to seek medicine frequently in order to preserve their vitality. The incident yesterday was the result. Futian knew very well that the old couple, because their cultivation had been destroyed, had relied on their daughter to take care of them all these years. Furthermore, Ping'an needed to seek medicine frequently in order to preserve their vitality. The incident yesterday was the result. They didn't want to keep dragging Ping'an down, so they decided to depart this world peacefully. No matter what happened in the future, with Ping'an following the Great Elder, even if there was a dangerous situation, she would be far safer than she would with them. What happened yesterday was the reason for their choice. Futian brought the bodies of the old couple back to the mountain for burial. The old man had always regarded himself as a disciple of the Sky River Great Elder, and he believed this deeply. Although Futian had not personally had these experiences, he could deduce and draw many conclusions from the dialogues he heard and things that had happened. Ping'an's grandfather, the elder senior brother of the master, the eldest disciple of Sky River Great Elder, the gentleman sword emperor, must have been admired by all. But he and his descendants ended like this. There was an additional tomb now on an area of the mountain. Aside from Futian and Ping'an, Sky River Great Elder was also present. He stood there quietly, and his ancient face appeared exceptionally calm. But he knew everything in his heart. This was the place where your grandfather cultivated, but it was abandoned later. Burying Howren and his wife here is the only thing I can do for them, Sky River Great Elder whispered. Ping'an, let the dead rest in peace and don't be too sad. Your parents must have suffered all these years, so they decided to leave this world in peace. Ping'an knelt in front of the graves. Her tears seemed to have run dry, but her eyes conveyed a firm resolution. She would live well, not for herself, but for her parents and for her grandfather, because she was the only one who would carry on the bloodline. From now on, you will follow me to cultivate. If you have any questions regarding cultivation, you can always ask your Uncle Master. Of course, you will address him as Uncle Master while on the mountain, but in the outside world, you have to address him as Grand Uncle Master, Sky River Great Elder advised. Ping'an nodded. When Grand Uncle Master deliberately asked her to bring the message to separate his relationship with Uncle Master, and that they were never to acknowledge one another whenever they met again, she understood the meaning behind it, and how she should act. Futian, you should also remember your master's words, Sky River Great Elder added. Futian turned to look at the Great Elder, then nodded seriously. He knew that some things might happen in the future, but for the master, it was an unbearable weight. There were some things the master needed to face himself. It was just that some things required him to make a choice, no matter the price. Just as the Grandmaster respected the choice of the master, he would respect it too. In the Realm Palace, where Duan Qing resided, someone came with a message. Are you saying that someone killed the person who went to the Su residence to pick a fight, and then Su Howren and his wife committed suicide? Duan Qing looked at the messenger. The messenger nodded, and Duan Qing looked up into the distance, revealing a touch of sadness. Su Howren was considered his nephew in cultivation, someone whom many of their brothers watched growing up. After his cultivation was destroyed, there was in fact not much point to his life. Now that it was finally over, perhaps it was a relief of some sort. May you have a safe journey, Duan Qing whispered. His oldest senior brother was unrivaled and full of righteousness, but because of it, he lost his life. His stubbornness had spelled the misery for his entire family. It was so unnecessarily painful. There was no need for many to die. Do you know who killed those people? Duan Qing asked. The man shook his head. He left soon after the killing. It's been so many years, and we did not really follow Su Howren much anymore. Indeed, it's been so many years. But somehow, I had a feeling that something was going to happen, Duan Qing mumbled to himself. First, it was that his master had appointed a successor, and then it was the suicide of Su Howren and his wife, and then their daughter was sent to the mountain to cultivate. Although these seemed to be common, trivial matters, the deaths of those unremarkable people made Duan Qing feel a little uneasy. Who was the mysterious man that had killed them? Investigate carefully to see if there are any clues, Duan Qing commanded. Yes, Your Highness. The man nodded, then bowed and left. Duan Qing was still standing there looking thoughtful. Although things had passed for a long time, as long as the master was still alive, it would be a hidden danger concerning the realm palace. The master's strength was too powerful, as the premier person in the Tianhe realm. Therefore, even though everything had passed by many years, they had always been watching the mountain. As soon as there was the slightest movement, they would know immediately and report to the top. He knew very well that the reason why his master did not die at the time was that someone above him was also protecting him. After all, he was the son-in-law of the god clan, and maybe it was all set up for the return of that descendant. Therefore, after the news that Sky River Great Elder had taken a successor, he decided to report to the top. Several days later, in the land above the realm palace, a bright ray of light suddenly fell from the sky dome. The entire realm palace was in shock, and countless eyes looked at the void above. Some frowned. Who dared to be so bold and appear directly above the realm palace? Some also faintly realized something. Their pupils contracted slightly, and they vaguely guessed what had happened. The divine light directly fell into the realm palace, as if the entire palace was covered with a sacred glow. A group of people appeared directly above everyone. All of them were going in that one direction. Naturally, Duan Qing was there too, leading everyone to the ground below that group of people. He raised his head slightly, looking at those figures that descended from the sky. The proud Renhuang of Realm Palace was now slightly bowing to pay their respects. Not only him, but many people in the Realm Palace were also paying homage at the same time. Their action alarmed those who did not quite realize it before. But finally, they understood just where these people were coming from. Supreme Realm, the God Clan. Although the Tianhe realm was regarded as a very powerful realm with many Renhuang existences, also in close proximity to the area of Supreme Realm, and belonging to the extended interface of the Supreme Realm, in front of the behemoth, that was the God Clan of the Supreme Realm, it was still not worth mentioning. Once upon a time, when the God Clan had passed down its judgment, that vast and endless the Tianhe realm had faced the danger of extinction. It was on account of the mediation done by the Realm Palace, and having chosen the right path, that the Tianhe realm was able to continue standing until now. Otherwise, after that war, the Realm Palace of the Tianhe realm would very possibly cease to exist. Those who came were bathed in divine glory. The man who headed the delegation looked to be about 30 or 40 years of age. He was also a Renhuang existence with astonishing authority and power. Standing beside him was a young man with deep-set eyes that seemed to contain terrible divine aurora. When the two were standing together, they looked somewhat alike as father and son. On both sides of them, there were several elders, but the light emitted from them was far more restrained, and their breath was hardly detectable. However, Duan Qing felt that these were actually the stronger characters, especially the old man standing in the very back. When his eyes glanced at Duan Qing, it made Duan Qing feel a sense of imminent danger. He was a Renhuang existence, which just accentuated how terrifying the old man's realm was. Clearly this time, the delegation that was dispatched to come down to the bottom was very strong. Any matter concerning the Sky River Great Elder, no matter how great or small, would not be taken lightly by the God Clan. At this time, in the direction of the highest hall inside the Realm Palace, an old man came through the void. The old man was wearing a golden royal robe, and he was extremely majestic. Many people bowed down to worship, as the person who had arrived was the master of the Realm Palace of the Tianhe realm, Emperor of the Tianhe realm. Everyone came from the upper worlds. You must be tired. I have ordered a feast for you, the Realm Emperor said. Many were shocked to hear that the Realm Emperor had personally greeted these guests, and only those from the upper worlds could enjoy this treatment. The Realm Emperor is too kind. There is really no need. Let's get to business first, said the person who headed the delegation of the upper worlds, his eyes surveying the crowd. He asked, respectfully, Realm Emperor, who do we talk to regarding this business matter? Duan Qing. The Realm Emperor looked at Duan Qing, just as Duan Qing took a step forward. Tell us everything in detail, the man said to Duan Qing. Duan Qing nodded, and gave a detailed account of the recent events. The other looked calm after hearing it, and it was hard to tell how they felt. Uncle has not had any visitors in a long time. Let's visit Uncle since it's been many years. As the man spoke, he turned and walked directly toward the mountains where the Sky River Great Elder was cultivating. Uncle, many people in the Realm Palace heard this appellation. With a quiver in their hearts, they thought that the Sky River Great Elder was indeed powerful. He was accepted by the God clan. If he did not walk the wrong path, he would definitely be at the top of the Supreme Realm. Even for those prominent men from the God clan, when they saw him, they still had to call him uncle. Conversely, those at the Realm Palace trembled and shivered when they saw the people from the upper worlds. You go and see, the Emperor of Tianhe Realm said to Duanqing. Duanqing nodded and followed along, walking in that direction. On the mountain, before they even arrived, Sky River Great Elder had already sensed it. At this time, he and Yi Futian were standing in front of the mountain, while Su Ping'an stood quietly at the back, gazing into the distance. They are here, Sky River Great Elder whispered. Yi Futian did not ask. He would know who was coming when he saw them. Sure enough, shortly after, radiant divine light descended, and a group of people seemed to cross the void and appear directly in front of the mountain, standing above the void. They stopped there with Duanqing behind. When he saw this, Yi Futian knew who was coming. The people of the upper worlds had arrived. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1582 The Demand. 1582 The Demand. The Sky River Great Elder also looked at those who came from the God clan. His expression was indifferent, and he did not appear to be disturbed. He knew very well that even if the God clan did not arrive here today, they had never stopped monitoring him. Once he walked out of Tianhe City, the God clan would know immediately. At this time, the middle-aged Ren Huang, who was the head of the God clan, stepped forward and bowed in the direction of the Sky River Great Elder on the mountain, saying, Shen Yao greets Uncle. This powerful clan that once almost destroyed Tianhe Realm had an extremely rare surname. With the surname Shen, otherwise known as God, they were therefore referred to as the God clan. It stood above the 9 heavens, and even in the Supreme Realm, it was a clan that stood above the clouds. Using God as a surname, Yi Futian expressed a look of disbelief. Was this the true meaning of the God clan? Unless a clan was incredibly confident in their own prowess, they would not use such a surname. All the other surnames, no matter how domineering, would be inconsequential in comparison. However, if a small clan used God as their surname, they would probably soon change it, because such a name would bring disaster upon the clan. Sky River Great Elder glanced at him and said, Time passed so fast that you are already Ren Huang. It's indeed gone by very quickly. At that time, I often followed Uncle and asked you to teach me about cultivation. In a blink of the eye, all that was before is gone. Shen Yao looked up at Sky River Great Elder. There were indeed many emotions in his heart. The Sky River Great Elder was indeed a peerless figure. Even among the God clan, there were few who were stronger than him. This uncle of his was also powerful in his teaching method, and was well known because of it. He still remembered how he followed behind Sky River Great Elder and his aunt in seeking the art. But the past belonged to the past, and everything no longer existed and would never be again. Back then, that most treasured daughter, who was the light that was looked upon by countless people, his aunt, would never be the same either. I don't suppose you are here to reminisce about the good old days, Sky River Great Elder said, looking at Shen Yao. I came to see how my uncle is doing, but also to let you know my father send you his regards, Shen Yao replied. How is she now? Sky River Great Elder asked. Shen Yao naturally knew of whom he spoke. Please understand that the God clan specifically ordered that my aunt's condition is not to be divulged to Uncle. Please don't take it personally, Shen Yao said. Sky River Great Elder didn't say much. He had no way of knowing any news from the God clan. But, presumably, the God clan would not be willing to kill her. It's just that it had been so many years, and how was she today? They had betrayed the God clan and warred against them, so she was regarded as a traitor. She had been taken away heavily injured and then imprisoned. The fate of his beloved wife was unknown. Perhaps, as it had been for him, it had been very painful. Please tell her that she doesn't need to think about anything else. As long as she is well, it is enough for me. Sky River Great Elder looked at Xin Yao and continued to ask, "Is there anything else besides seeing me? I heard that uncle has accepted another disciple to inherit your crafts, so I have come to take a look." Only now did Xin Yao's attention turn to Yi Futian, who was next to Sky River Great Elder. There were only 3 people on the mountain. Besides Yi Futian, there was only Su Ping'an. It was very clear who the successor appointed by Sky River Great Elder was. It was naturally the young man with the white hair. Judging from his temperament, he was indeed extraordinary. It was said that his strength was also incredibly powerful. He was at the peak of Saint Plain, and already obtained the body of the Great Path. Many genius talents of Tianhe realm were not his equal. They were not even at the same level. "Now you have seen him," Sky River Great Elder said. "I saw." Xin Yao nodded slightly. Why did uncle decide to accept a successor after so many years of cultivating in retreat? Can't I pass on my whole life's worth of cultivation? Sky River Great Elder looked at Xin Yao and asked. He is only of Saint Plain. Even if the God clan is worried about it, they wouldn't be acting up right now? Xin Yao smiled and shook his head saying, "Uncle thinks too much. The God clan won't worry about uncle taking on a successor. Even if uncle had accepted disciples all these years, the God clan would not have intervened. These things are not something worthy of God clan to worry about. Even if your successor wanted to get revenge on uncle's behalf, they would not care." He wasn't lying. This was the pride of the God clan. The mighty God clan, that had stood at the top of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, had no need to fear the successor of the Sky River Great Elder. If so, now that you have seen him, you can go back now. Sky River Great Elder spoke nonchalantly. Shen Yao shook his head and continued. After all these years, don't you understand the thoughts of the God clan? Everything the descendants of the God clan ever did was to enable the God clan to stand at the peak for all generations, and pass from one to another for all eternity. There was a time when the God clan was willing to trust you and my aunt, as well as my younger sister. However, you have all failed that trust. Sky River Great Elder knew what the other was referring to, and that divine item was passed down from their branch. The so-called trust is based on absolute control and absolute obedience to the will of the God clan. Such trust is not worth having, Sky River Great Elder said sarcastically. The God clan was strong enough to believe that it could control everything. Therefore they trusted them, and everything needed to follow the will of the God clan. Until one day, they did not choose to do the will of the God clan. Hence the storm of that year erupted. The will of the God clan is above everything, Xin Yao said. So, your coming here today is also because of the will of the God clan? Sky River Great Elder looked sharply at the other. Naturally, we came by the will of the God clan, Xin Yao said. His attention then turned to Yi Futian. We need to bring him back to the God clan. If there is no problem, we will send him back without any issue. When Yi Futian heard this, he felt a chill run down his spine. This was the God clan from the upper worlds. How arrogant were they to demand to take him to the God clan? Just because the Sky River Great Elder wanted to pass on his craft to him, as his successor, they wanted to take him. Was this a move to unveil all the secrets that he had? The God clan wanted to know if he had anything to do with what happened in the past, and if it had anything to do with the disappearance of Qi Xinggang. Yi Futian knew very well that this was not because the God clan had guessed anything, but that they wanted to find what was inside Fei Xue's body. They would not overlook any possibilities. His appearance was obviously suspicious to the God clan. Therefore, they wanted to take him directly to the God clan to verify things. There was no evidence. There wasn't even a need to guess, just the need to execute their will. That was all clear and simple. But from this, one could detect just how overbearing and powerful the God clan was. The God clan would not take Su Ping'an away because they knew everything about Su Ping. Even though the Sky River Great Elder also instructed her in cultivation, the God clan didn't really care. Xin Yao's voice caused the space to fall into a short silence. No one spoke. All the cultivators of the God clan also looked at Sky River Great Elder, as well as Duan Qing and others behind them, who also stared at the Great Elder and Yi Futian. Even though the master had aged, his status remained. And the God clan, as always, was still so arrogant. All of this was brought on by real power. In contrast, the master of the Tianhe realm, the Realm Palace, appeared somewhat inconsequential, not at all like the real commander of the Tianhe realm. Sky River Great Elder looked up at the people from the God clan. At the moment when his eyes swept past, an invisible will of the wave flowed upon the mountain. The heaven and earth were changing, as was the sky, and a suffocating might of the great path spread between heaven and earth. Shen Yao raised his eyebrows slightly, only to hear the Sky River Great Elder say, "I don't trust you." In that incident in the past, among 3,000 disciples, how many died at the hands of the God clan? Now should I repeat the same mistake? At this moment, the long hair of Sky River Great Elder flew wildly, but he was standing straight. He proclaimed, "He will not follow you back to the God clan." Feeling this coercion, the cultivators of the God clan also released a strong breath to resist the coercion. Even after so many years had passed, the anger of the Sky River Great Elder was still enough to change the sky. This mountain range had already been covered by his will. Although this area looked to be extremely vast, for people like Sky River Great Elder, it could be covered easily with a simple command. "Uncle, why do you have to be as persistent as in the past?" Shen Yao asked Sky River Great Elder. "Since even my only successor is now in danger of being taken away from me, then you go back and invite him to come. The only way to take my disciple away is over my dead body." Sky River Great Elder sounded extremely determined. The he that he was referring to was naturally the most powerful man of the God clan. In the battle that nearly exterminated the realm, it was this man who led the God clan to come down to the lower worlds. Shen Yao had already guessed that the Sky River Great Elder would not easily let anyone take his person away. But still, he didn't expect such an extreme stance. Over his dead body. If so, although there were some extremely powerful cultivators that had come today to want to take someone from this uncle of his, it was still kind of impossible. As for that mighty man, he would not easily go to the lower world. It was impossible for him to attend to all the matters concerning the God clan himself. Why does uncle want to make the whole thing difficult? The God clan just wants to see him. They won't do anything to him, Shen Yao said. You have already seen him. Sky River Great Elder's response was still domineering. Shen Yao fell silent. With the Sky River Great Elder there, it seemed that it was impossible he would make way for them. He had some understanding of his uncle's personality, and knew that what happened in the past was not for no reason. He was too persistent in his own beliefs, unwilling to change in the slightest. Since uncle won't let him go, can he come closer so I may take a better look at him? Shen Yao didn't continue to insist, for he knew it would go nowhere otherwise. No, Sky River Great Elder replied simply. Shen Yao frowned slightly. This was already as accommodating as he could be. If the Sky River Great Elder still would not agree, there is no harm in them taking a good look at me. Shen Yao found that the person who spoke was Yi Futian himself, and he could not help but look astounded. At this moment, Yi Futian was looking at Sky River Great Elder, who was also looking back at him. The master is here, so what if they take a good look at me? Yi Futian smiled indifferently. With the Sky River Great Elder's watchful eyes, what could the cultivators of the God clan do? Hearing Yi Futian's words, Sky River Great Elder was silent for a moment. He nodded and said, "Then you can do as you wish." Yi Futian stepped forward and came in front of all the cultivators from the God clan, a faint smile on his handsome face. God clan, how did it compare with power such as the Golden Divine Nation? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1583 Making an appearance. 1583, making an appearance. Yi Futian stood in front of Shen Yao, and in front of all the cultivators from God clan. Traces of breaths fell on him, as if trying to spy on his secrets. Shen Yao's brow chakra seemed to be opened, sending out a terrible divine light. This divine light shrouded Yi Futian's body in a moment, and Yi Futian felt as if he was imprisoned by a divine light. Boom! An extremely sacred pressure of the great path descended, and suddenly Yi Futian felt the oppressive force of suffocation. It was the pressure that came from the spirit soul. He felt as if his spirit would come out of his body and be bound and suppressed by the divine light. Yi Futian felt that he was trapped in an illusion. In this wonderful world of illusion, his consciousness and the spiritual soul had separated from the body. Under the eyes of the sky, countless reflections of Shen Yao, like godly statues, rushed directly into his spiritual soul, asking to be let into his conscious to see his deepest secrets. This ability was incredibly terrifying. It could directly spy on the secrets of others. No wonder the Sky River Great Elder disallowed the God clan from taking him away. At this moment, the Sky River Great Elder was focusing his attention on Yi Futian. The pressure of might permeated from his body. As soon as Yi Futian could no longer bear the weight of it, he would directly intervene by force. Shen Yao, you have really grown up. Sky River Great Elder spoke lightly, and his voice was commanding without being arrogant. He dared to forcibly spy inside Yi Futian in front of him. This was enough to prove that little fellow, who had once followed behind him, was now a Ren Huang, and the backbone of the God clan. Certainly, having entered Ren Huang, his style and manner of handling things were different. Gone was the childishness of yesteryears, and what was left now was the majesty and strength of Ren Huang. Yi Futian closely guarded his spirit, and at the same time, the power of the deed of thorough comprehension bloomed out, refining the way inside his body. Inside the spiritual soul, the ancient characters of the Great Path seemed to be surrounded to guard the will and blocking the forceful invasion of the other. Humph! Shen Yao snorted coldly. The divine light from his brow chakra grew even stronger. Miles of the radiant glory sprinkled down, and an infinite beam of light seemed to pierce directly toward Yi Futian. At this moment, Yi Futian appeared minuscule under that divine light. The man he was facing was not some ordinary cultivator of Renhuang Plain, but someone who came from a clan that ruled the upper worlds. Ren Huang of the God clan, its blood flowing in his body, and he belonged to the main branch of its bloodline. Sky River Great Elder was his uncle through marriage since his aunt was married to him. She had been the most coveted beauty at the time. For a person of such background and lineage, never mind someone from the Saint Plain, even Duan Qing from the realm palace of Tianhe realm, the direct disciple of Sky River Great Elder, was hardly of enough weight to stand in front of him, because they were simply not at the same level. At this time, Shen Yao was a little surprised. Normally, it was difficult for any ordinary Ren Huang to defend against his divine eyes. But today, a man from Saint Plain was able to offer some resistance. It was no wonder his uncle had picked him as his successor. His talent was truly astounding. Forgive me, uncle, since you refused to let me take him back to the God clan. This is what I have to do, Shen Yao said. The pressure of might was still getting stronger, and Yi Futian's spirit soul was quivering slightly. The coercion from the Sky River Great Elder was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if it might bloom at any moment. At the same time, behind Shen Yao, several prominent figures of the God clan stepped forward. All of them were releasing a terrible breath to take on the oppressive force meted out by the Sky River Great Elder. The entire mountain range was now in a state of suffocation, and many whose realms were weaker felt difficulty breathing, as they were greatly suppressed. Your Highness. However, at this time, there seemed to be a very strong breath coming from afar. This breath came from a very distant place, the realm palace of the Tianhe realm. Father. Duan Qing raised his head and looked surprised when he sensed this breath. Why did his father, the emperor, suddenly appear now? What had happened? Shen Yao, the cultivator from the God clan who was oppressing Yi Futian at the moment, also frowned. The old man next to him asked, "What does the realm emperor mean by this?" "Qi Xinggang has returned," a voice came said, and everyone perked up when they heard his words. Shen Yao's breath dissipated quickly from Yi Futian's body, as the rest of the cultivators also withdrew their breath. They all concentrated their attention toward the sky. Duanqing's heart was quivered. Qi Xiangang had returned? He didn't expect that he would actually come back. A trace of disturbance flashed across the face of Sky River Great Elder. He had come back after all. Yi Futian's heart trembled. He tried hard to control his expression so that he appeared calm. On the side, Su Ping'an's face turned pale. And it was a detail not missed by Shen Yao. Judging from the looks of it, when Duanqing reported that someone had saved Su Ping'an, that someone must have been Qi Xiangang, who had returned. He came back and had gone to see Su Ping'an's parents, but he didn't go up on the mountain. If so, then the white-haired young man may have nothing to do with Qi Xiangang. Where? Shen Yao asked. Outside the Realm Palace, the voice said. He wants to see Duanqing. Let's go back. Shen Yao spoke lightly, then immediately turned around to leave. Not only him, but all the cultivators of God Clan and Duanqing all turned and stepped into the void to leave. Are you going? The Sky River Great Elder transmitted his voice to Yi Futian and asked whether Yi Futian would go there or not. Yi Futian understood the meaning of the question. Since Master had chosen to appear, it meant that he had decided to face everything. If he went, could he control his emotions? I will go, Yi Futian responded. And without saying anything more, the Sky River Great Elder nodded. The storm of the Great Path rolled toward Yi Futian, and the two disappeared directly from the mountain. Granduncle Master. Su Ping'an's eyes looked toward somewhere far away, her face extremely pale. At this time, outside the realm palace of Tianhe Realm, a figure stood there quietly, and in front of him were great groups of mighty cultivators, and even the realm emperor of Tianhe Realm. He stood there, watching the figure that had appeared. Qi Xiangang had come back. He had arrived in such blunt fashion, standing in front of him like this. And he was also now a Renhuang, having experienced the great upheaval that happened, and having left with just a grievous injury. It was not easy for him to step into the Renhuang realm at all. It was no wonder Sky River Great Elder chose him for his daughter. In the distance, many people gathered together. Qi Xiangang was an unfamiliar name to the Tianhe realm today. But once upon a time, the upheaval that was raised in Tianhe realm because of him was a near disaster that almost destroyed the realms. Therefore, until today many still remembered him, disciple and son-in-law of the Sky River Great Elder. Qi Xiangang had taken off his hat now. He stood there calmly, and with honest majesty. There was no anger or fear on his face, only indifference. It was the kind of indifference that was only possible when everything had been let go of. He didn't plan to appear so early, or in this way. But once he knew that the God Clan was coming and had gone directly to the mountain, he decided to come out in advance. He would end it all in his own way. Above the sky, there was divine light descending, followed by the cultivators of the God Clan. They appeared directly at the top of the stairs, looking at Qi Xiangang. After Qi Xiangang was seriously injured back then, they had searched for him for many years, but they couldn't locate him. Perhaps Qi Xiangang had been wandering about, and perhaps he had gone to some very distant place. They had never expected that he would come back by himself. Then, Duanqing also appeared. His eyes fell on Qi Xiangang in an instant. This was outside of his expectations. After so many years, the man who had disappeared had come back by himself. He was not the descendant that they had guessed. Qi Xiangang watched the appearance of everyone quietly. It wasn't until the Sky River Great Elder came that his eyes seemed to come alive. He turned around and looked at the old man who appeared there. Qi Xiangang knelt down in the direction of Sky River Great Elder, touching his forehead to the ground. Since you have come back, why not go up the mountain and visit? This is already out in the open. Are you still worried that it will hurt me? The disciple was inconsiderate. Qi Xiangang looked up at the Sky River Great Elder, saying, For what happened then? The disciple could never make it up to Master and Masteress. How could I return to the mountain to see you? If you felt you couldn't come see me, why would you come back? Asked the Sky River Great Elder with a bit of coldness. Since you have already disappeared from this world, what can you do by coming back? There are some things that if I don't come back to solve, my heart will not be at peace, Qi Xiangang replied. Even though I did not visit Master on the mountain, I still have a glimmer of hope that I will see Master one more time. Sky River Great Elder looked at the figure, and he was speechless. At the time, he quite liked Qi Xiangang. Otherwise, he would not have accepted him as a son-in-law. Qi Xiangang possessed a calm state of mind. The intention of his heart was extraordinary, and their philosophy was in line with one another. If Qi Xiangang was given time, he could become a great cultivator who could inherit his crafts. Unfortunately, the upheaval of the past had destroyed everything. "You're quite the pupil," Sky River Great Elder responded with some displeasure. What was the price of a glance? Now that Qi Xiangang had appeared, the God clan would take him away at all costs. His appearance meant that he could never leave again. Since junior brother is this thoughtful, why should master be displeased? At this time a voice came. It was Duan Qing. He looked at Sky River Great Elder and said, "Junior brother returned this time, presumably so that the master may be freed from all this." Sky River Great Elder glanced at Duan Qing and said, "I do not have disciples who lie and cheat their teacher, seeking their destructions. You are not worthy of being my disciple." Duan Qing was stunned. Although what had happened was known by many back in the days, and everyone had guessed it somewhat, but it was always talked about in secret, never in public. Even Sky River Great Elder had never mentioned it. However, at this time, he was openly accusing him of cheating and seeking the destruction of his master. He understood that perhaps because of Qi Shuangang's return, everything would end, and the master no longer cared. "I have done nothing wrong," Duan Qing said to the Sky River Great Elder. Everyone was born with their own life and their own position. He did not think that he had done anything wrong. He was a person from the Realm Palace with the blood of the royal family in his veins. All descendants of the God clan took the will of the God clan as their own highest will, and he was no exception. The interest of the Realm Palace was the highest interest without question. It was impossible for Duan Qing to watch the Realm Palace go down with Qi Xiangang. He needed to protect the Realm Palace, because this was his clan, and he had to do something, so that the family would continue on and emerge from that upheaval. Therefore, he had no regrets and his conscience was clear. If he had to do it again, he would still choose to do the same. Yi Futian had been watching all this quietly, and his heart was extremely turbulent, but his face remained expressionless. Qi Xiangang had not looked at him from beginning to the end. It was as if they were really just two strangers. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1584 to kill. 1584 to kill. You've done nothing wrong. Qi Xiangang turned to look at Duan Qing. His eyes showed chilling murderous intent. Think about how our older senior brother treated you, like his own brother, and taught you as if he was a father to you. When the master had no time, it was he who led you in cultivation. When you had problems in cultivation, you also asked the older senior brother for instruction. Do you remember how you led the people from the God clan to kill the senior older brother yourself? And you've done nothing wrong? Our older senior brother was the gentleman sword emperor. He lived his whole life in the light without deception, always full of righteousness. Whenever any of our junior brothers had the need, he had always lent a helping hand. And he was betrayed by his own junior brother. When the sword was broken, he did not look at anyone else but you and asked you why. Is this how you have done nothing wrong? Qi Shuangang's voice was stern, and every word he said was full of condemnation. Duan Qing's expression changed, and countless people outside the Realm Palace had heard what Qi Xiangang had to say. They were greatly shocked. Although there were rumors circulating at the time, hearing Qi Shuangang's account of the events in public was still shocking. The Realm Palace had betrayed the Sky River Great Elder. Do you remember how our 7th senior brother treated you? He had promised his own sister to you in marriage. And once in a dangerous situation outside, he lost an arm protecting you, and almost lost his own life. Do you remember the way the 7th senior brother and his sister looked at you when they were dying? This is what you mean when you say have done nothing wrong. Qi Xiangang continued to interrogate him. At the time, many of them could have escaped, but all this was caused because of the traitor Duan Qing. None of them had thought that Duan Qing, who was fleeing with them, and whom they regarded as one of their own, had secretly colluded with the God clan and sold them out so that they were all wiped out. In the end, the masteress and the master fought at all costs and ended up on the verge of death. The masteress tried everything to send them away, but in the end, she sacrificed herself so that he and Feishue could escape. To him, that period of time was the darkest in his life. If it weren't for Feishue, he would have chosen to come back and die fighting alongside his wife. I needed to make a choice. Although it was difficult, I chose family, Duanqing said. Although he looked upset, his mind was unperturbed. It was true that the master and his brother were dear to him, and he was guilty of taking part in their deaths. But if he didn't make that choice, what would have become of his own family? What about the realm palace, then? Everything would have been destroyed. For the family? Qi Xinggang laughed sarcastically. Cowards can always find an excuse for their actions. What was the attitude of the realm emperor when he came to our master's door asking for your admission, calling the master the symbol of the Tianhe realm? All these many years of knowing each other, only to have you lie about fighting together, feigning your disdain toward the God clan only to find out you are their lackey in secret. Is it really because all you wanted to do was to protect yourself? If this was the case, you could have openly ended the relationship to draw the land and stand on the side of the God clan. Would the God clan destroy the realm palace? Qi Xinggang looked at Duanqing and asked, "Is this what you meant by saying you did nothing wrong?" The sound of his voice rocked the void, sending shockwaves into everyone's mind. He had done nothing wrong, because it was for the survival of his family? What a noble-sounding excuse. In truth, it was because the Sky River Great Elder was getting too powerful and had become the unofficial king of the Tianhe realm. Thus, the Realm Palace devised a plan of destroying the Sky River Great Elder by the hands of the God clan, so that it would become the true ruler of the Tianhe realm. Qi Xinggang. A sonorous voice came out, and the robe that was upon the realm emperor was flying. His gaze was fixed on Qi Xinggang. He said loudly, "While you questioned the others, you didn't think that all this started with you?" Qi Xinggang looked at the realm emperor of Tianhe and said in a deep voice, "I am guilty. That's why I am back. Some things needed closure. Since you are back, come back with us to the God clan." In another direction, the divine light that dazzled upon the body of Xin Yao of the God clan had now descended upon Qi Xinggang. But besides that, the breath of the other cultivators of the God clan also fell upon Qi Xinggang, already locking onto him. Since Qi Xinggang had come back himself, he must be taken away today, even if the Sky River Great Elder could not intervene. The great ones of the God clan would come here to take him away. The moment when Qi Xinggang appeared, everything was already determined, and no one could change it. That's fine. Qi Xinggang looked at Xin Yao and said, "But before that, I want to resolve this issue between Duanqing and me." The people from God clan were watching him. The reason why they did not immediately act was that Sky River Great Elder was present, and they were still unclear about his position. "Master, the last thing I ask of you is that if anyone tries to intervene, no matter who it is, kill me directly, as if you are cleaning your house, and get rid of this undeserving disciple," Qi Xinggang said to the Sky River Great Elder. His voice contained a determination that alarmed those from the God clan. Qi Xinggang did not ask Sky River Great Elder to stop them, because Qi Xinggang did not want his master to directly engage the God clan. He had asked Sky River Great Elder to kill him instead. Very well. Sky River Great Elder nodded in agreement. A terrible might of the way shrouded the vast space, falling directly on Qi Xinggang, as if he really would kill Qi Xinggang at a moment's notice. This caused those from the God clan some concern. Since he demanded a fight, "Duanqing, you will fight." Xin Yao looked at the people from the Realm Palace and said, "People from the Realm Palace are not to interfere." He was giving Qi Xinggang a chance to handle the grudge himself. But no matter how this was to end, Qi Xuanggang's fate would not change. The God clan was determined to take him away. There was no other alternative. Very well. Duanqing also nodded and took a step forward. "After so many years, I also want to see the result of your cultivation." The deed of thorough comprehension bloomed instantly on Qi Xuanggang's body. He stepped forward, and the void trembled violently, the divine light of the great path flowing about, covering Qi Shuanggong's body. In just a moment, his body transformed into the divine furnace of the great path, refining the way of the world. Did you feel any remorse when our older senior brother questioned you? When Qi Xiangang moved, a voice came out, reverberating between heaven and earth, booming in Duan Qing's mind. Likewise, there was also a magnificent might of Ren Huang that bloomed upon Duan Qing. In an instant, as his robe fluttered, a brilliant golden glory enveloped his body. Its magnificent momentum was not any less than that of Qi Xiangang. Even people in the distance felt the powers of the two Ren Huang, and trembled inside. Some found the pressure hard to bear, and stepped back in retreat. But the Sky River Great Elder, and the cultivators of the God clan still stood there without moving. Yi Futian also stood there, behind Sky River Great Elder, watching his master battle. He knew that this might be his master's last battle. The endless glory of the great path radiated downward, and descended on Qi Xiangang. The characters that signified heaven, earth, water, and fire surrounded his body and multiplied. Ancient characters filled and enshrouded the endless void. They moved around the firmament until countless characters also appeared to surround Duan Qing's body. The 5 elements of heaven and earth, and the great path of heaven and earth, as if driven by some sort of exercise, formed a giant pattern with Qi Shuanggong's body as its center. It was the diagram of the great path of heaven and earth. Inside the diagram, countless characters rotated, and inside Qi Xiangang, it seemed that there was also a similar diagram like this, which was the divine wheel of the great path that resonated with the world. Our brothers died with unavenged sorrow. When they looked at you in their dying moments, did you ever feel any remorse? Qi Xiangang asked again. He continued to step forward. Qi Xiangang whispered, and the cultivators from the God clan in the sky frowned. One of them instantly emitted a strong breath, and Shen Yao also felt something was not quite right. He said, "Stop him." However, at this moment, an incomparable divine light came down. It was as if Qi Shuanggong's spiritual soul had come out of his body, and came along the divine light that descended from the heavens. It landed directly in front of Duan Qing, like the divine god, and with the drop of a finger, countless characters sprinkled down with it. In this instant, Duan Qing's spiritual soul was penetrated by the divine light of the great path, and the penetration each time burst with madness. His face showed great fear. It was completely absent of all blood and color. "Now, do you regret it?" A voice came through Duan Qing's destroyed spiritual soul, and his face turned terrified. At this moment, his life passed before his eyes, and he thought of the times when he had cultivated under the tutelage of the Sky River Great Elder. He also thought of his senior brothers, and their despair before they died. Truly no regret at all? Bang! The dazzling light came down, and Duan Qing's body shivered. He then fell down from the sky. His soul and spirit scattered had evaporated. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1585 The Choice Between Life and Death. 1585 The Choice Between Life and Death. Duan Qing, the prince of the realm palace, and a Renhuang level cultivator, had fallen here. The two of them were at the same level, and since Duan Qing had reached that level earlier, his knowledge of it was deeper. He had already forged 3 wheels of the great path, and reached the next, most powerful part of the Renhuang plane. However, he had been wiped out by Qi Xiangang. His divine spirit had been destroyed, and his life force had been scattered. He had never been given a chance to surprise. Of course, Qi Shuangguang had used techniques that hurt himself in order to forcibly increase his power. At the same time he had killed Duan Qing, he had needed to wound himself. This is what made the others look so worried. They did not care whether Duan Qing lived or died. On the contrary, they cared more about Qi Xiangang. They couldn't let anything bad happen to him. He was the only one who still knew about the disappearance of the divine item. At the moment that Duan Qing died, a burst of terrible energy pressed down on Qi Xiangang. His divine spirit returned to him in a flash, but it burned up in the furnace of the great path. Endless divine light from the sky still pierced his mind, and the countless characters of the great path exceeded the limit of what he could bear. His divine spirit and his body were bathed in divine fire. The burst of powerful energy began to dissipate. The endless light burst and shattered, and the will within his mind was burned away to nothingness. In a flash, his level decreased, and he was no longer as strong as before. What have you done? Terrible divine light shot out of Xin Yao's eyes as he looked at Qi Xiangang. He could feel Qi Shuangang's soul weakening. Previously, he had burned away his own soul in order to create will and forcibly use it in an attack. In addition to killing Duan Qing, he had also destroyed a part of his own soul. Qi Xiangang opened his eyes and looked up at Xin Yao. He looked incredibly calm. It was as if everything ended here with him. You burned your own soul. Did you destroy a part of your memory? The cultivator from the Shen clan strode forward, staring daggers at Qi Xiangang. But he no longer cared. He looked as if he was now free. He knew he had wiped away many of his own memories, and he had forgotten which ones they were. It was probably information about Fei Xue and about his escape. In this way, even though the Shen clan had powerful techniques, they would have no way to gain any valuable information from his mind about Fei Xue. He had wiped away these memories, so now Fei Xue must be safe, right? He did not know, as he no longer had those memories. He had forgotten, but he felt at peace. Jie Huang of Realm Palace walked over to Duan Qing. He cradled the body in his arms and looked at Qi Xiangang, his eyes full of killing intent. Today, Qi Xiangang had returned, and before everyone's eyes had killed his son Duan Qing. He was the heir who had made great contributions to the Realm Palace. He had created the palace's current prosperity with his own hands. But he had been slain by Qi Xiangang like this. However, he understood that the Shen clan would not allow him to take revenge. The Shen clan would not let Qi Xiangang die. All his memories are fractured. They have been wiped away, said a powerful figure from the Shen clan, looking at Xin Yao. There was an ugly look in Xin Yao's eyes. He would never have thought that his uncle's disciple would be so fierce. It seemed that he had already thought of everything before he had returned, and had cut it all away, removing all hope for the Shen clan. Although he had returned, he did not give them a chance. Qi Xiangang had returned just to put an end to this matter, and to kill Duan Qing. This is the way things are. So give him to me, came a voice. The one who had spoken was naturally the Sky River Great Elder. He walked forward towards Qi Xiangang. Xin Yao looked at the Sky River Great Elder and said, "He came here to bring matters to an end of his own free will. You should not worry about this anymore." He would naturally not doubt the Sky River Great Elder again. Qi Xiangang had come to bring matters to an end, so he could definitely not give the information to the Sky River Great Elder. That would be foolish. Would the Sky River Great Elder be in danger because of this? Judging by Qi Shuangang's present actions, this was impossible. By doing this, the Shen family could not get the information they wanted. Back when Qi Xiangang had just fled, the powerful figures of the Shen clan had searched through all of the Tianhe realm thoroughly. Then they had spent several years searching throughout the 3,000 realms of the Great Path for some trace of him. But they had not found him, so they had given up. Now he was here, which left only Fei Xue. And Fei Xue had been young when she had left. After so many years, her appearance and aura would be totally different. Even if they traveled through the 3,000 realms of the Great Path and covered them all with their spiritual will, they would not be able to recognize her. But they had to bring Qi Xiangang back with them to see if they could obtain any clues from him. The Sky River Great Elder's aura was terrible. It surged out from him, but Xin Yao stood in front of him calmly. Qi Xiangang turned his head with great difficulty to look back at the Sky River Great Elder and said, "Master, your disciple has not been filial. I can no longer remain by your side to take care of you, nor can I inherit your mantle." The Sky River Great Elder pointed at Yi Futian and said, "Your disciple can inherit my mantle, and your granddaughter is safe. I will teach her to cultivate." Qi Xiangang looked at Yi Futian and saw him step forward, up to the Sky River Great Elder. The people of the Shen clan had said that his master had ruined his own memory. It seemed that his memory of him had been wiped away as well. "Don't worry, brother. I will cultivate well and take care of master, said Yi Futian to Qi Xiangang. He bowed to him, but only him and the Sky River Great Elder understood the meaning behind the bow. Qi Xiangang nodded. His face was pale, and his aura was growing weak. He looked up into the sky. He seemed to see a beautiful figure there. He should have already been with her. Why was he still alive? Qi Xiangang himself did not understand why he was not seeking death. He did not understand, but the Sky River Great Elder and Yi Futian did. Bring him back to the Shen clan, said Shen Yao. Chains of the Great Path fell upon Qi Xiangang, binding him up and carrying him into the sky. Take care, uncle, said Shen Yao to the Sky River Great Elder with a slight bow. Then he turned and flew up into the sky. Brilliant divine light flashed, and Qi Xiangang was pulled up into the sky. He grew more and more distant until finally he disappeared. Qi Xiangang looked down at his master as he was being pulled up with a calm smile. He seemed to be free from worry. He did not know why, but he felt very relaxed. He looked at Yi Futian as well. Why did this man look so familiar? It must be because he was another one of the master's disciples. The two of them had the same origin. From now on, the master would have to rely on this other disciple. Come back to us, whispered the elder as he watched the disappearing figure. Yi Futian nodded. The two of them turned and walked away as if nothing had happened. They seemed very calm, but there was some sorrow in their tranquility. The Sky River Great Elder was getting old. There were times when he felt powerless in the face of all this. If it had been in the past, he would have fought. He would not have allowed the Shen clan to take Qi Xiangang. But this time, he had not fought. And he had seemed calm the whole time. Perhaps he was truly getting old. Many people were looking at Tianhe Palace, and at the tall and mighty emperor, as well as the fallen Duanqing. It seemed that the emperor had sold out the Sky River Great Elder, resulting in his 3,000 disciples being killed. Perhaps he was numb due to the things that had happened back then. So numb that there was no passion left in him. 3,000 of his disciples had been killed, and now Qi Xiangang had been taken away. Would this incite him at all? Even Qi Xiangang had come back, willing to kill the traitors at any cost. He had questioned and killed Duanqing outside the palace. The old man and the young man walked side by side. The elder's voice appeared in Yi Futian's mind. Your master came here seeking death. I know, answered Yi Futian mentally. His master had not planned to leave here alive. He had come seeking death. His death would be beneficial for many people. Fei Shua was well taken care of, as she was set up in a supreme region. His master would not seek to drag her into any more trouble, and so he would have no contact with her. Thus, he had returned to the Tianhe realm alone. But he did not die, said the elder. It's because of me. As long as he is alive, the Shen clan's eyes will remain on him. No one will worry about the one who will inherit his mantle, said Yi Futian. Death would be easier for his master. He already had the will to die, but he had come to the Tianhe realm as well, which changed his master's plans. When he learned that the Shen clan was coming, he had appeared earlier, right outside the palace. He had cut off any road of retreat for himself. Moreover, he had destroyed his own memory. Life was harder than death for him. Life would be full of humiliation. The Shen clan would torture him, which was something he was not willing to undergo. But as long as he was alive, they would not pay any attention to Yi Futian. When the master was there, why would they pay attention to a disciple? As the two of them were talking, they reached the mountain. They stood there calmly, looking out into the distance. When she saw that they had returned, Ping'an calmed down. But she did not see Qi Xiangang, which made her sad. He thinks that his death will put an end to things. But it is not that simple. As the two of them descended upon the mountain, the Sky River Great Elder looked up into the sky. An end? How could it bring an end? Could killing the traitor Duanqing and dying himself bring an end to things? It was too early. Yi Futian looked at the old man. It was not that simple. You should not leave the mountain again. You should stay here and cultivate. Then you will reach the Runhuang plain faster, continued the Sky River Great Elder. Yi Futian nodded. The elder looked off into the distance and said Ping'an coming towards them. He smiled warmly when he saw her pretty face. Ping'an, he said. Teacher. Ping'an looked at him. She looked like she was going to say more, then stopped. She wanted to ask something, But she did not. Do you want to live somewhere else? Find a spiritual partner? Give up everything and choose a different life? Asked the Sky River Great Elder. Pinyin looked up at him, and her eyes hardened. She shook her head. She did not say anything, but her answer was in her eyes. The elder nodded slightly. He reached out and gently patted her on the shoulder. He looked off into the distance. If she didn't want to, then she didn't have to. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1586 Breaking Through. 1586 Breaking Through. Things calmed down as the news of what had happened at the Realm Emperor's palace spread. Even after these things happened, the palace was still standing, and was, in fact, even more prosperous than before. Many people could faintly guess what was going on, but those who had actually been present for the events kept their lips sealed, and no one brought them up. The Sky River Great Elder did not ask about anything that had happened. He seemed to have been badly shocked, and gradually people stopped trying to guess what had happened to him. Moreover, since he did not ask about outside affairs, the Realm Emperor Palace soon became an invincible force within the Tianhe realm. But now the Realm Emperor Palace's power was called into question. Qi Xuangang's questioning voice still rang through everyone's ears. The Realm Emperor Palace had thoroughly sold out the Sky River Great Elder. By extremely despicable means they had been allied with him on the surface, while secretly working with the Shun clan in order to wipe out his disciples. Duan Qing had certainly deserved to die. He had done everything for the benefit of his family. But what about all those who had died as a result of his actions? However, winners wrote history books. Even though people knew of the Realm Emperor Palace's treachery, they still stood at the peak of the Tianhe realm. So no one dared to say anything. Presumably, they had always been afraid of the Sky River Great Elder. They had not done anything about Duan Qing's death. As time passed, fewer and fewer people were talking about these events. Futian spent his time cultivating on the mountain. The deed of thorough comprehension contained the will of the 5 elements and the 8 trigrams, making it extremely mystical. It even allowed one to use these powers in their own cultivation. This was incredibly useful to someone like Futian, who cultivated many different techniques. Moreover, the deed of thorough comprehension was connected to the worldly great path. Just like the people of the Tianhe realm wanted to become the Sky River Great Elder's disciples and get closer to him, the deed of thorough comprehension allowed one to get closer to successfully forging a spirit of the way and rush towards the Runhuang Plain. Futian cultivated day by day, and his understanding grew deeper and deeper. He felt that it would not be long before he reached the next level. His divine spirit was integrated into the worldly great path. He was one with the way. He had no personhood nor self, no possessions nor self-image. He was the way. He was being raised to a higher level. This was why, although the next level seemed to be only a step away, it was a very difficult step to take. The 10,034th year of the Divine Prefecture calendar gradually drew to a close. Futian had been here for almost a year. It began to snow in Tianhe City, and for many days, the city was covered in a blanket of white, making it look magnificent. The mountain that Futian was on became snowy as well. The land and sky around him became even more ethereal. Upon the snowy mountain, an elderly man was training a woman in the art of cultivation. The two of them were very serious about this. Naturally, this was the Sky River Great Elder in Pinyin. She had been advancing very quickly under his tutelage. She was already very talented. After all, the blood of the foremost sword emperor of the Tianhe realm flowed through her veins. Thus, she was naturally skilled at swordsmanship. Su Pinyin was training with the sword amidst the snow. The Sky River Great Elder watched her calmly. His gaze gradually lifted into the sky. He whispered, "It's been almost 50 years. What has been almost 50 years, master?" came a voice. A white-haired figure strode towards him through the snow, leaving footprints behind him. He was dressed all in white. It was as if he was a part of the snow, only his eyes were dark. Futian strode to the Sky River Great Elder's side, and the two of them watched Su Pinyin train. "How is your cultivation going?" The Sky River Great Elder did not answer Yi Futian's question, instead asking a question of his own. I will not need too much longer, said Yi Futian. He had a feeling that he was not far away from full comprehension. Ah, well, if you have an epiphany, don't rush yourself to break through to the next level. Don't become a runhuang for the time being, said the elder. Why? A look of doubt came over Yi Futian's face. What did he mean? He had told him to rush towards the Runhuang Plain, but not to actually enter it. Didn't you ask what had been almost 50 years? Something is going to happen next year, said the Sky River Great Elder. Yi Futian was silent for a moment, then nodded. He did not ask any more. How old are you, Futian? The Sky River Great Elder asked curiously. I will be 50 this year, said Yi Futian. Exactly 50? asked the Sky River Great Elder. Yi Futian nodded. Yes. Without realizing it, he had reached the age of 50. If he had been a normal person, he would already be old. What a coincidence, said the Sky River Great Elder with a smile. He did not say anything else. Coincidence? Yi Futian did not know what the Sky River Great Elder was speaking of. He did not say anything else, and Yi Futian did not ask. Yi Futian sat down, right on the snowy ground beside the Sky River Great Elder. He watched Ping'an training before them. Although she was at the noble level, she still seemed like a little girl in his eyes. This must have shown a change in his state of mind. In the past, he had looked at nobles as if they were so high above him. He thought they could be rulers of their own small countries. Now when he looked at them, they seemed like his juniors. His consciousness became a snowflake in the wind. He danced in the air. He could see not only Ping'an, but also the entire snowy mountain, then the entire mountain range. All of it was before his eyes. The snow grew deeper and deeper, as he danced in the wind like a feather. He did not know how long he remained like that. Finally the sword stopped, and the sword will dissipated. Ping'an had stopped cultivating. Previously, the snowflakes could not fall upon her due to the sword chi. But now that she had stopped, they began to land on her. She reached out and picked up a handful of snow. A bright, beautiful smile appeared on her face, as pure and unblemished as jade. What is wrong with him? A look of confusion came over her face when she saw that Yi Futian was completely covered in snow, standing there as peacefully as a snowman. His breathing was even. Other than the snow that had been melted by the heat of his breath, the rest of him was covered in snow. He did not react when Ping'an stopped cultivating. A strange look came over her face. Could it be that he was cultivating? Thinking of this, she decided not to disturb him. She feared she would break his concentration. At that moment, a burst of wind blew over the mountain, sending snowflakes flying. The snow danced as it flew off of Yi Futian. The wind blew on Ping'an as well, making her shiver. She seemed to feel something, but could not quite grasp it. It was a marvelous feeling. What is this? She whispered. As the wind blew, Yi Futian opened his eyes and stood with a smile. You're awake, said Ping'an. Yi Futian nodded. Yes, he said. Ping'an, I have cultivated swordsmanship as well, and thus have some small understanding of it. Let me show you something. Perhaps it will be helpful. All right, said Ping'an with a slight nod. Was Yi Futian going to teach her some of his swordsmanship? He had taught her a little bit already, but not like this. At that moment, Yi Futian's eyes became brilliant, and sword will seemed to swirl around them. Do not resist, he said. He looked at Ping'an, and she felt spiritual will enter into her mind. She saw one sword at first, and then countless swords of the great path. Each word seemed to contain the essence of the great path. In a flash, her mind was filled with swords. All that was left in the world were swords. She had entered into a world of swords. Yi Futian looked away quickly, and his eyes became calm again. The understanding of swordsmanship that he had gained over the years had been directly imprinted into Ping'an's mind in a unique way. How her swordsmanship would develop from here depended on her. Yi Futian turned and walked away through the snow. Snowflakes were still falling upon him. Ping'an still stood there, as if she had frozen. Sword will flowed through her endlessly. After a while, her sword chi rose within her. Su Ping'an had broken through to the next level. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1587 350 years. 1587 350 years. The snow continued at the end of the 10,034th year of the divine prefecture calendar for a while. The flying snowflakes dyed Tianhe City a silvery color. On the last day of the year, the city was very busy. Lantern light lit up the night sky until it was as bright as day. Every household had lit their lanterns, and people were walking and running through the streets. Within the realm palace of the Tianhe realm, many of the halls were lit up with brilliant divine light. The light shot out into the sky, lighting up the dark night with divine radiance. This was fated to be an extraordinary night. In Tianhe City, a little girl pulled at an elder's hand and asked, "Grandpa, why is it so lively tonight?" She was very curious. She was more than 10 years old and knew many things. She had seen New Year celebrations before, but had never seen an atmosphere like this. It seemed as if Tianhe City was particularly looking forward to the coming year. Even the realm palace seemed different. It was taking this very seriously. The whole city was rejoicing together. "It's because this is going to be a special year," answered the old man. "A special year?" The girl did not understand. "Why is it special?" she asked. "You will understand when you are older." The old man patted her head with a smile, his eyes full of kindness. He looked up into the sky. Many years ago, the Tianhe realm had experienced a great storm. The chaos of the world seemed like it would never stop. But the contributions that they had made were invaluable in bringing an end to a dark and chaotic time. Up on the snowy mountain, Futian was seated in cultivation. He could sense the merriment in Tianhe City in his thoughts, and could not help but feel a little confused. Did Tianhe City really make such a big deal about the New Year? Over the years, he had found that the place he had felt had had the most New Year's spirit was Qingzhou City, where he had started out. As he had come to more and more impressive cities and more powerful realms, he had found that the New Year's spirit weakened. The people were concerned with pursuing power and cultivating, and so they lacked some of the passion of the people of Qingzhou City. Now he was seeing such a marvelous sight here in Tianhe City. Could it be that this was some kind of tradition? At that moment, a figure walked to his side. She looked off into the distance, and her thoughts seemed to go out over there as well. She seemed to remember something, and a tear trickled down from the corner of her eye. "Ping'an." Futian looked to the woman beside him and said softly, "Are you thinking of your parents?" "Yes." Ping'an smiled slightly and nodded. She looked at Futian and said, "I must look like a fool to you. Their wish before they died was for you to live peacefully and happily." "Ping'an, do not be sad," said Futian comfortingly. "I'm not. I'm just thinking of when I was with them." "It is not purely sadness," said Ping'an with a smile. "Let's go out into the city and celebrate the new year with everyone." "All right," said Futian with a nod. The two of them smiled at each other, then stepped through the air down the mountain. Before long, they had come to Tianhe City. People walked on the roads in an endless stream. There were no conflicts between people on this day, and no one challenged anyone else to a fight. Everyone was very modest and accommodating. Even if there was friction between them, they had only to smile, and things would sort themselves out. Many people took their children out with them onto the streets to experience the friendly atmosphere. "It would be wonderful if the world was always like this," said Ping'an with a smile as she watched this beautiful scene. Futian smiled and shook his head. This was definitely just a flight of fancy. They two of them wandered aimlessly. They were not headed anywhere in particular. They were just sightseeing. Perhaps Ping'an wanted to walk on familiar roads, ones that she had trodden in New Year's past. "Do you have anyone that you miss?" Ping'an looked up at Futian beside her. His white hair melded into the white snow, and it was impossible to tell them apart. With his handsome face and piercing eyes, he clearly had some stories to tell. He was refined and cultivated, handsome and kind, and had a great amount of talent. There must be many women chasing him. So why did he have white hair as a young man? He may have been 50, but for a cultivator at the peak of the saint level this was quite young. Even if his cultivation did not advance at all, His face would still be unchanged after several hundred years. Of course, said Yi Futian with a smile. There are many people that I miss. Who? Asked Ping'an curiously. My love, my teachers, my friends, and my brothers. I miss many people, said Yi Futian. If you miss them, why don't you go and find them? Asked Ping'an. Her level was too low, so she had been unable to protect her parents. But Yi Futian was very powerful. He was at the peak of the Saint Plain, and there was no one below the Renhuang level who could match him. It is impossible to be satisfied in all aspects of life. Everyone has hardships. I want to be with them, and that is why I cultivate, said Yi Futian. Ping'an nodded. I understand. Was her own cultivation not also to protect her parents? Yi Futian must have his own stories as well. Is there a lake in Tianhe City? Asked Yi Futian. Ping'an nodded. Yes, there is. Do you want to go see it? Yi Futian nodded. Yes. Then I'll take you. Ping'an led the way. Before long, they had come to the edge of a lake. It was very busy here as well, with people sailing across the lake on small boats. Some of them were lighting lamps and making wishes. It was an incredibly familiar scene. A bright smile came over Yi Futian's face. He loved lakes, perhaps because all his best memories took place beside them. They were memories from his youth. At that moment, brilliant, beautiful light flashed in their eyes. Yi Futian looked up and saw that the sky was full of fireworks. At that moment, his memories seemed to overlap, and time seemed to flow backward. Many cheers rang out over the lake as the fireworks bloomed in the sky. The 10,035th year of the Divine Prefecture calendar had finally come. It's so beautiful, whispered Ping'an. She looked at Yi Futian. In the light from the fireworks, his handsome face looked even more extraordinary. A beautiful woman and a nobleman were perfectly matched for each other. Perhaps Yi Futian was just such a man. When he smiled like that, was he thinking of the person that he loved? This was fated to be an extraordinary night. The heavenly mandate realm and the higher heavens realm were both members of the 9 supreme realms. Thus, they stood at the peak of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. However, the strongest of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path had no conflicts. It was the realm that stood at the center of the 9 supreme realms, the Imperial Realm. All of the 9 supreme realms acknowledged this without hesitation. The Shen clan was a power of the Imperial Realm. Thus, even the Tianhe realm, which was under their control, was very strong. Many powerful Renhuangs came from there, including the Sky River Great Elder. In the center of the Imperial Realm was a mighty divine palace, so tall that it reached into the sky and pierced through the clouds. It was holy and mighty. The palace was covered in endless divine light. Everyone who walked by it felt incredibly pious and bowed down before it. This was the symbol of the Imperial Realm, Void Emperor Palace. It was said that this place was once the personal palace of Donghuang the Great. Now there was a statue of the Great Emperor within the palace. It was said that he had left some of his divine spirit within the image. At that moment, 9 clouds were floating above Void Emperor Palace. Incomparably holy divine light shone down from the sky, forming into 7 beams of light. All of the clouds in the vast, endless sky seemed to be surging. At that moment, a beam of divine light shone down from the high heavens upon the tall palace. Afterward, an invisible wave swept down from the heavens. Dong! The sound of a bell ringing spread throughout the sky. The sound melded into the world, becoming a formless rhythm. It sounded like thunder that pierced through the sky. There were many top powers, tall palaces, and mighty halls within the Imperial Realm. Many people were praying to heaven, and thousands of people knelt behind them. Dong! The bell rang again, and the people praying to heaven bowed, as if they had known the sound of the bell would come. The prophecy is coming, and we await it here, said a solemn elder up on the sacrificial platform. They were all waiting for a prophecy to come from Void Emperor Palace. The Shen clan was one of the top forces in the Imperial Realm, but at that moment, many members of the Shen clan were gathered together, looking off into the distance. Dong! The bell rang again, filling everyone's minds with its sound. And it was not only them. The Imperial Realm's seemingly endless land made it the largest of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. At that moment, countless souls heard the ringing of the bell. What was more, The bell was ringing throughout all the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. It went out towards the heavenly mandate realm, the higher heavens realm, and all of the 9 supreme realms. It rang out in the divine palace of the higher heavens realm, in the golden divine nation, and on Taishan mountain. It rang out in the heavenly mandate dynasty, in Brahma's pure sky, and in the violet heavenly palace. No one knew how to describe this sound. It was a miracle, truly the work of the gods. As the bell rang, a group of figures wearing identical clothing walked out of Void Emperor Palace. They flashed away in different directions. It seemed like they were heading to the 9 supreme realms. Far away in the Tianhe realm, Futian and Pinyin had returned to the snowy mountain. Light bloomed in the sky, lighting up the clouds, and sunlight fell. As the 10,035th year of the divine prefecture calendar started, it seemed as if everything was starting anew. Dong! At that moment, the sound of the bell rang over the mountain. Futian opened his eyes as he sat there cross-legged. He looked up into the sky, and his thoughts stretched out. A look of surprise came over his face. He felt the ringing sound descend from the sky. It was everywhere at once. It filled Tianhe City. Where is that sound coming from? His heart was in turmoil. He rose into the air, trying to find the source of that sound. An elder stepped out onto the snowy ground, looking up into the sky. Master! Futian alighted beside the elder, a questioning look on his face. The old man was still looking into the sky. He said, "The 10,035th year of the divine prefecture calendar is the start of a new era. Dong Huang the Great unified the divine prefecture 350 years ago. If we count from this, we can also say that it is the 350th year of Dong Huang's calendar. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." 1588 God's Relic. 1588 God's Relic. It was the 350th year of the Dong Huang calendar. It had been 350 years since Dong Huang the Great and Emperor Yi Qing unified the whole world. Futian was moved when he heard what the elder said. It all seemed so far away from him, but he still felt that it was connected to him. He was 50 years old this year. He had been born 300 years after Dong Huang the Great and Emperor Yi Qing had unified the divine prefecture. And it seemed that there had been nothing ordinary about his birth. Thus, it seemed that Tianhe City was not just lively because of the new year, but also because this year had special meaning. It was also a nice round number year for the divine prefecture. His own age was also at a nice round number. This clearly meant something. 100 years marked an era in the divine prefecture. 50 years would then be half an era. Does anyone actually use the phrase Dong Huang calendar? Asked Futian. Some do, said the Sky River Great Elder with a nod. When Dong Huang the Great unified the world, and the many realms of the divine prefecture became one, he and Emperor Yi Qing naturally had the right to make a new calendar. But they did not. Even so, many people still count time by the Dong Huang calendar. But since he didn't change it, people still mainly use the divine prefecture calendar. Where is that bell coming from? Asked Futian. The ringing sound was coming from the sky and sounding throughout Tianhe City. The elder looked up into the sky and said softly, "Every 50 years, a bell rings out from the empty imperial palace in the imperial realm, meaning that the prophecy is coming into the world. If I'm not wrong, divine messengers should be coming out of the empty imperial palace right now." The imperial realm. Futian's heart trembled. Was this ringing coming from the impossibly distant imperial realm? Naturally, he knew of the imperial realm, the greatest of the 9 supreme realms of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. The imperial realm was also known as the Central Emperor realm, and it was the head of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. The other 8 supreme realms surrounded it, and the other realms of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path surrounded them. How could this ringing sound cross through so many realms? There's nothing strange about this. The bell ringing in the empty imperial palace announces the prophecy, and it rings at the great emperor's command. Its ringing goes out to the 9 supreme realms, and from there to all of the other realms. The Tianhe realm is within this area, and that is why we are able to hear it. explained the elder. What is the empty imperial palace? And what is the prophecy? Asked Yi Futian. There were too many things that he did not understand. A single bell could be heard throughout countless realms. What kind of power would allow it to be heard throughout the 9 supreme realms? The empty imperial palace is the emblem of the imperial realm. It is the great emperor's home among the 3,000 realms of the divine path. If there is nothing special about this prophecy, it will be the same as always. It will speak of God's relic, explained the Sky River Great Elder. This is why I wanted you to temporarily delay becoming a Renhuang. I wanted you to go there. God's relic, whispered Yi Futian. He understood. This relic of God would be different than the ones he had encountered before. The fact that it invoked the name God showed how extraordinary it was. The so-called God's relic was very likely real. Why is it the empty imperial palace? And not just the empty palace? Asked Yi Futian softly. Where is Renhuang the Great if not in the imperial realm? He is there, and yet he is not there, answered the Sky River Great Elder. This world is not the true world. Then what about the true world? Is it the same there? Asked Yi Futian. The Sky River Great Elder looked at him and said, If you are successful in the God's trials, you will have a chance to find this out for yourself. When will I go? Asked Yi Futian. The prophecy is coming, and soon all the 9 supreme realms will receive it. At that time, they will all send out their disciples. Then, the God's relic will be open for a period of time. However, we can go early. The prophecy will not come to the Tianhe realm. Thus we need to find a power that will receive it and go with them, said the Sky River Great Elder. Can all of the 9 supreme realms take part in this? Asked Yi Futian. Who is going to receive the prophecy? Technically, anyone in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path can take part. However, only those powers that receive the prophecy will be able to bring them there. Thus, if one wants to go to the God's relic, they must first receive the approval of one of the powers that received the prophecy. As for who will get the prophecy, the empty imperial palace have their own plans for that. If there are no mishaps, it will be the greatest forces in the 9 supreme reals, answered the Sky River Great Elder. In that case, Taishan Mountain will receive it as well, whispered Yi Futian. If that was so, he could naturally go with them. If not, then the divine elephants from the heavenly mandate realm would work as well. If he wanted to take part, they would definitely let him. How strong are the people below the Renhuang level at Taishan Mountain? Asked the Sky River Great Elder. They are not that strong, said Yi Futian. There was a great gap between the disciples of Taishan Mountain and those of the divine capital of Xiling. The only ones who could truly count were the 4 great disciples of Lord Taishan. The younger generation was not as good. When compared to the people from the vastness of the 9 supreme realms, they would be at a severe disadvantage and would not be able to put up a fight. During the trip to the Divine Palace, the disciples of Taishan Mountain had all been clearly inferior, save for him. This time, it would not only be the top forces of the higher heavens realm, but all the forces of the 9 supreme realms. And in reality, that meant the top forces of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. All of them would likely be there. The God's relic opened once every 50 years. It was the training that Donghuang the Great had prepared for them. Thus it was obvious how prestigious this event was. It would naturally shake the 9 supreme realms, and even the entire world. The bell that was ringing throughout the 9 supreme realms was just the start. In that case, you need some allies. I will consider for a while, then send you to a force that will take you to the imperial realm and grant you success at God's relic, said the Sky River Great Elder. Yi Futian saw that he had fallen into deep thought, and did not disturb him. In reality, given his current level, even though the cultivators from the 9 supreme realms would gather like clouds, there were few who would be a match for him. Now people like Li Daozi and Yi Tianyu were no longer a match for him. Only people like Huang Zhong of the Divine Temple would be able to challenge him, or people who were even stronger. Although Huang Zhong was said to be the most powerful person in the higher heavens realm below the Renhuang Plain, there would certainly be other people in the 9 supreme realms who were stronger. The 9 supreme realms were so vast, and the imperial realm was at their center. There would certainly be many heroic figures, empty Emperor Palace was at the center of the Imperial Realm. The Sky River Great Elder had known to tell him not to break through to the next level for the time being. Would the top figures of the Central Emperor Realm know to do that as well? Certainly, some of them would suppress their level for this. This time, the cultivators would certainly gather like clouds. He did not say anything. His master was clearly thinking about things for him. As long as he could find him an ally, he didn't mind. "What time should I leave?" asked Yi Futian. "How has your cultivation been going?" replied the Sky River Great Elder. "There have been no problems," said Yi Futian. The Sky River Great Elder looked at him. In reality, he could already sense this. He nodded slightly, then turned to look at the woman cultivating in the distance. "Ping'an," he called. "Keep cultivating on the mountain. Do not go down. Yi Futian and I are leaving for a while." Ping'an looked back at him. "All right," she answered. "Let's go," said the Sky River Great Elder to Yi Futian. There was no need for him to stay in the Tianhe realm. So why not bring Yi Futian to the Central Emperor realm a little early? Yi Futian nodded. "All right." A burst of powerful will covered him. Then the two of them shot up into the air. This was the second time that Yi Futian had been transported across realms. The first time was when Lord Taishian had brought him to the Tianhe realm. This time, he was going from the Tianhe realm to the center of the 9 supreme realms. Indeed, it was the center of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, the Imperial Realm. The Central Emperor Realm, the largest of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, had many powerful forces within it, and endless cultivators. In this realm, when cultivators went outside, they did not dare be too arrogant. There were simply too many of them. Among those forces that stood at the top of the Central Emperor Realm, any one of their names was enough to make it, so that a common cultivator would find it hard to breathe. There were many ancient clans that had passed down their techniques since ancient times, as well as families that had weathered generations of hardships. All of them were powerful, and had depths beyond measure. The most powerful forces of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were gathered here, as well as the most powerful figures. The greatest heroes of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were finally gathered together in one place. A member of the Shun clan walked out towards a magnificent palace. "What is it?" came a voice from within. "The Sky River Great Elder has left the Tianhe realm. He is likely already on the way to the Imperial Realm. It is probably because of the bell," the man answered with a bow. "I understand," came the voice from within the palace. "Should we do anything about it?" asked the man. "He is focused on the person who is going to inherit his mantle. For the time being, we don't need to do anything," answered the man within the palace. "Did we find out anything from Qi Xiangang?" "Not yet." The man lowered his head. "Heal him. Help him recover his divine spirit and his memory," said the man within the palace. They had Qi Xiangang in their hands, and so there was no more information that the Sky River Great Elder could provide them. Now all they could do was work hard to help Qi Xiangang recover. Even if he only regained a little bit of his memory, it would be good. "Yes, sir." The man bowed, then turned to leave. While this was going on, the Shun clan was very busy. Many of them were preparing for the god's relic. And it was not only the Shun clan. The 9 realms had all heard the prophecy, and so they were all preparing for this. Other realms were even busier as they prepared for this magnificent time. When the bell rang, the 9 realms were thrown into turmoil. In a foggy place within the Imperial Realm, there was a magnificent divine mansion that reached into the clouds. Below it stretched many tall mountain peaks. They were like pillars that held up the mansion. In front of the mansion, there was a sky stairwell that went down from the sky, connecting it to a faraway place. As it went on, the sky stairwell reached the mansion, which was extremely spectacular. This was an extremely prestigious place within the Imperial Realm, the sky-reaching peaks. At that moment, 2 figures appeared before the sky stairwell. One was young, and one was old. The old man was very noble, and the young man had white hair. The 2 of them had powerful auras. It was the Sky River Great Elder and Yi Futian. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.